Did you know that the first ever act of Waqf was done by a Jew? A Jewish man named Mukharik, who later converted to Islam, left 7 of his orchards in Medina to Prophet Muhammad in his will. Mukharik died in the Battle of Uhud in 625 CE, and Prophet Muhammad promptly took over ownership of Mukharik's property and established it as Waqf. The first act of Waqf in India was started by the invader Muhammad Ghori after looting wealth from Hindus and their temples. Ghori dedicated entire villages to the upkeep of a mosque in Multan. From Muhammad Ghori to Muhammad Ghaznavi to Qutbuddin Aibak to Muhammad bin Tughlaq to Babur to Aurangzeb, several foreign invaders demolished Hindu temples and converted them into mosques. Not only did they plunder wealth from Hindus, they used that wealth to build more Islamic institutions. Not only were all these structures regarded as Waqf property, they were further given lands and funds as Waqf. These Waqf endowments, that is, donated lands or funds held for religious or charitable purposes, became the backbone of mosques, madrasas or Islamic schools, dargahs, Sufi shrines, etc. These vast estates of Waqf were Allah's property and could never be inherited or sold. So opponents of the Waqf Amendment Act are okay with taking wealth from Hindus and creating Waqf property out of it, but they do not want any non-Muslims to be on the Waqf board. Does this seem fair to you? This was the state of affairs until 1860, when the British colonial government began bringing in laws to regulate the Waqf institutions. The Musalman Waqf Validating Act 1913 was in fact sponsored by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. The Musalman Waqf Act 1923 and the Musalman Waqf Validating Act of 1930 were also enacted by the British colonial government. The first piece of legislation on Waqf in independent India was the Waqf Act 1954, which provided for the incorporation of Waqf boards in every state. Further amendments to the Act were made in 1956 and 1959. Another amendment to the Waqf Act in 1964 allowed for the setting up of a central Waqf council to supervise the functioning of the Waqf boards and to advise the central government on matters of Waqf. The Waqf Act 1995 gave the Waqf boards broad powers to control the Waqf properties and established Waqf tribunals to rule over any disputes pertaining to Waqfs. In 2013, amendments to the Act gave more powers to the Waqf boards and Waqf tribunals to survey and maintain Waqf properties. This amendment also allowed for Waqf to be created even by non-Muslims. In recent years, from temples to entire villages to farmland have all been claimed as Waqf property by the Waqf board. Now with the Waqf Amendment Act 2025, this will come to a stop. The arbitrary powers of the Waqf boards and Waqf tribunals have been curtailed, protecting the property of non-Muslims and stopping our cultural heritage from being seized.